time for another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. My name is Damien. And before we get started, if you haven't already, which I'm sure you haven't, hit that like button, subscribe button, share it with your friends if you enjoy it. If you don't, then, don't pass crap to people. That's just rude. But now that's out of the way. Tonight's movie is The Sand. It's a real sizzler. It's about the sand that kills people. And you can watch it on Tubi. If you're really into horror and you don't already have Tubi, you're really dropping the ball. And they do not support, they are not a sponsor whatsoever. The only sponsor I got is Cool Dude Inc., so go check that out. The link's below. But Tubi is awesome too, and if you like horror movies, go to Tubi because they just keep getting more and more stuff. And it's great. And yeah, there's commercials, but what's so bad about, like, you're watching an old 80s horror movie and a commercial comes on? To me, that's nostalgia. I kind of miss commercials. I like it. Lets me know when it's time to pee. This movie came out in 2015. It's directed by Isaac Gebbe. Isaac Gebbe. I don't know. And I don't know what else he's done because I looked it up and I was like, I haven't really heard of any of this stuff either. There's an 80s movie called Blood Beach, and the covers look very similar. These movies have nothing to do with each other. And I assure you, it's not a remake. It's not a ripoff either. As far as I did a little reading about this movie, and the crew that was going to do this movie, they were going to do a completely different movie, and shit went wrong, so they went through scripts. And so, if this was supposed to be a remake of Blood Beach, it's the people making this movie had no idea. So, but it is kind of fun to watch them both because they are very similar. Apparently, if you make a movie about killer sand, there's no way it doesn't. It's like, but that sounds just like that other movie about killer sand. It's like, no, this is different. The sand's killer for a different reason. That one had particles. I don't know. All right, we open up. Kaylee goes to a graduation party at the beach where her ex and his current are partying. She goes there anyway. At first, she runs into Mitch. He's like, you want something to drink? She's like, nah, I'm good. And then she looks and sees her ex, Jonah, and Shonda. She's like, on second thought, yeah, go ahead and get me something. Get me something stronger than a water. The opening party scene is kind of filmed in like a series of hungover flashbacks where it's like it shows the party, then it shows the people waking up on the beach who end up being our main characters, and it flashes back to the party. It turns out that this is a spring break party. The reason why I was doing this movie in the first place is because it's June and it's graduation time. I was trying to, like, because people are always like, hey, how do you decide what movies you're going to do? And for me, it's like, I don't know. Sometimes I go with a theme. Sometimes something looks stupid and it looks fun. This one was a theme, so I was like, what graduation day horror movies do we got? And I got this one because IMDb shows graduation party, blah, blah, blah. Even Tubi's description said that. And then I'm watching the movie and they mention it's spring break. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm 3 months late. Nobody's graduating here. And these people are so old, I don't even know what they graduate from. I mean, they're not that old, but they're not high school kids by any stretch of the imagination. These guys look so old, they couldn't play high school kids in 80s movies. So when we finally get to real time, we're all caught up. We got the flashbacks going, we got the party, we got the morning. We're trying to figure out, it's like, what reality is being shown. Eventually we get to a point of, we're in the now. It's like the people are actually waking up. The people that we flash back from the party who are scattered out on the beach, which is not very many. The remaining partiers there's two of them at the lifeguard station. That's Mitch and Kaylee. 4 of them are in the car. And then Marsha's on the picnic table. And Kaylee's kind of up first, kind of observing shit. And then Marsha wakes up on the picnic table and she's topless. Everybody's like, oh, you're topless. And then she like starts puking and she makes an act to get off the picnic table. But right before she does, Kaylee looks over and she sees a seagull land on the sand and it sinks, but she can tell It's like that thing didn't sink. It looked like it was getting pulled down. So she's like, ah. And at that moment, she looks over at Marcia, who's getting ready to stand in the sand. And she's like, don't put your feet in the sand. Don't. But it's too late. And Marcia puts her feet in. And at first, she's like, oh, it's no big deal. And then she starts screaming. And so in the car, the convertible, with the other four people, it's two couples, Jonah and Shonda in the front, Haley's ex, and then Ronnie and Vance are in the back. Vance immediately jumps up and decides to be the hero. He's going to go save her. He runs in the sand. Then he gruesomely he stops and then he gruesomely gets pulled under. His face is all fucked. He's like, and they watch him suffer. However, before that all went down, we did get some boobage. And it was kind of weird because, everybody, nobody really gave a shit about Marcia's death. Everybody was like, Vance, no. And it kind of made sense because Ronnie is Vance's girlfriend. And she's like, what are you doing? Why are you running out there? And he's like, just hero. Maybe it's from being a Green Power Ranger that he's like, I must save despite danger and the fact that that's not my girlfriend. And to me, it kind of seemed like it's like, what's going on with old Vance and Marcia? And how come Ronnie wasn't like, what the fuck? Why did you just run? You just ran to your death for that girl that you barely know? What's really going on? You know that girl, don't you? No. On one hand, Ronnie's like pissed, or sad, grieving. I just lost my boyfriend. On the other hand, she's like, I think he was fucking Marcia this whole time. And Marcia was trying to lure him out with her 2012 Playboy titties. Fucking bullshit. Right in front of my eyes. They try to start the car up, but it won't start. It's dead. The battery's dead because they left the lights on all night. But it's just funny because they try it, and the engine revs, and it's like, dude, that is so not what a dead battery sounds like. Believe me, I know. I've had so many dead batteries in my life. And they can't call anybody because all the cell phones are in a bag in the trunk of said car because Vegas rules. Vegas rules is in what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And nobody wants to end up on social media the next day. Basically, it's like, we want a party with, consequence free. We don't need people like, oh, I got you on tape kissing that girl. It's a bunch of, young dudes. 20-something. It's a little too old. It's like, I hope this is your last hurrah because you're a little too old. Then there's Gilbert, the big black guy stuck in a big blue barrel with a dick drawn on his face. They tell him to wait for Tide to come in, but he's like, it hurts. His whine, once it's like he isn't there at all until, he speaks. Then it's like all of a sudden it shifts. I was like, oh my God, he's there. And once he's there, he's never not there. He's ever present whining, and he's fucking hilarious. He cracks me up because that dude gets into that role where he's just like, come on, man. I just need, and rightfully so, because I imagine the discomfort that he's got to be in. I bet the actor was in discomfort because he had to be stuffed in that barrel for so long. So I think some of it was kind of real. So Gilbert definitely has it the worst. Kaylee and Mitch have it okay because they can actually get up and walk around there in the lifeguard station. Everybody else is kind of trapped in the car. Jonah, Shonda, and Ronnie. So, and it's convertible and it's hot. I mean, it's kind of better because it's not like they're in a car where the sun's beating down on it. But at the same time, they have no way to escape the sun. So the trippy part is, and I don't know if I didn't notice this the first time I watched this movie or if I just hadn't watched it in a while. But it really hit me this time when they're piecing the night together, trying to figure out, okay, we could walk on the sand last night, and no, we can't. What happened? What changed? What's different? Kaylee's the one asking the questions, because Kaylee's the one who's like, we're getting the fuck out of here. We're gonna figure this out. They start realizing it's like they're not the last ones there because they partied the hardest and everybody bailed. They start realizing everybody else slept on the sand. Everybody else is dead. And this time when I watched it, I was like, oh shit. That's kind of hardcore. And it's funny because this movie, it's in broad daylight. It's one of those where it's like, this is a low budget film shot in broad daylight. I always mention this. Where it's like, man, if you're going to do low budget, do it in the dark. Because then nobody can see how fucked up it is. And this doesn't look that bad, but it's not as scary because it's on the beach in the daylight. But it's still, this was one of those moments where you're like, oh shit, everybody else is dead. They didn't leave. You're not the last one standing because everybody else went home. You're the last one standing because the sand ate everybody else. But at the same time, it's like, doesn't the sand ever get full? I mean, fuck, even the Sarlacc pit burped after it ate Boba Fett. Come on. Come on, sand, you fucking pig. You're a newborn. Because they look over and they see the cracked egg and they all kind of remember, it's like, that looks like that slimy thing that went to the fire that was in one piece. Now it looks open. It hatched. They start realizing it's like something came out of that thing and went into the sand. And when you get to that point, the movie doesn't seem as cheesy because it's not sand attacking people. It's some kind of mutation that got into the sand that's attacking people. But Kaylee realizes if it came out of an egg and it's alive and it's not the sand actually doing it, if it's like a being that took over something, then it has to have a size. And she finds a pack of hot dogs. And she's like, I think if I throw out the hot dog, it'll eat, it'll pull the hot dog down. Because it doesn't just pull everything down. The picnic table's there. The surfboards are there. The car's there. It's only people. It's only fleshy. It's only like things you would eat that get pulled into it. So she decides if I start throwing these out, if I throw it 10 feet and it gets eaten, that means the thing, she's figuring out the perimeter of this thing. Which, they're really low on food. I don't know why they're so low on food. Because there were a lot of people there. Like, nobody brought food. I don't know. I don't know what degree the party was. But she's like, I will throw it out there. But I'm thinking, if you only got you got 12 hot dogs, tops. Probably more like 8. 10? I don't know. I don't eat hot dogs. They're disgusting. But it's like, the point is you have a limited amount that you can throw out there. How about maybe break them in half? Maybe break them into thirds. Because you guys still got to eat too. Make a fire. You can eat your little quarter dog that once you find out the perimeter of this sand monster thing. But she's just like acting like she's got a fucking silo full of hot dogs she can throw. I was like, bitch, you got 4 more. You've thrown 4, you got 4 more. But Ronnie starts panicking because she's the one that points out, it's like, once again nailing my stupid face because I trusted IMDb in the Tubi description, but she points it out. It's like, hey, we're on spring break. Nobody's coming. Because this is party number 1 of spring break, and then we all got plans for the week. Nobody's going to be looking for us for at least a week. We're trapped out here. We're gonna die in this car. You're gonna die in that lifeguard station. He's gonna die in that barrel. And Jonah starts getting impatient and feeling like the man. And he's like, fuck this shit. And that's when the game of Hot Lava Monster starts. He grabs a couple surfboards and starts putting one in front of the other and making his way over to the picnic table. Somehow he can't make that final gap. Maybe, I don't know, but he like kind of falls and the sand like attacks his stomach and he's just like, ah. He makes it to the table and at the table is Marsha's purse. And he pulls out a Mountain Dew, a can of Pepsi, and then a bottle of water, and he throws it back to everybody. Jonah throughout this movie has this great arm where he can just throw whatever to whoever, but it never comes into play later. Like how accurate he can throw is only good for giving, which is fine, but it's not setting shit up. It's like it's only good for hey, you need some suntan lotion? Oh, you want a Mountain Dew? He can throw everything. It's like, okay, there's a monster. Not to jump too far ahead, but when the monster's attacking, it's not like Jonah then pulls out some kind of thing that he throws and kills the monster with. It's like all his throwing ability it's useless information. It's like, okay, cool, Jonah's a stud. He can throw. That's neat. He saved people from dehydrating. It's not like he killed the monster. His throwing, it's not like he threw something at the monster later. Whatever the sand monster thing is that attacked his stomach, it seems to be in him now, and he collapses on the table, seemingly dead. And Ryan decides she's like, I'm going to get the cell phone. She's going to climb over the trunk and try and unlock it and get him out, which is like kind of impossible to be standing on the car and open the trunk. because the shape and how the trunk opens. There's just no way you can do that, and she ends up fucking herself up. But the real question is, like, why the fuck didn't Jonah do that? Why didn't you surfboard your ass to the back of the car, open the trunk, and get the cell phones, and then if you still felt like playing Hot Lava Monster, then go to the fucking picnic table. Don't start with the picnic table because you think Marsha's got some magical shit in her bag. Then a car comes. Beach Patrol. Mr. Jamie Kennedy. And he's pretty sure they're all on drugs.
Why is Fat Albert in the trash can?
And he doesn't listen to them when they're like, don't go in the sand, don't step out of your car, stay in your car. He's like, don't tell me what to do. I'm a fucking grown-up. I used to give out survival tips and scream. And he steps out and they're like expecting him to get eaten and nothing happens. And they're like, oh, he has boots on. There must be something about wearing boots versus being barefoot. It's not anything genius. It's just like, oh, the boots must save him. Much like the tires, because they're serious boots. They're like, you know, standard issued. They're trying to tell him what's going on, and he's trying to tell them to shut the fuck up because what they're saying doesn't make any sense. And they're like, just stay off the sand. And then finally, like, he drops his keys. Like, oh, I dropped my keys. And he goes to pick them. Like, don't pick up your keys. And then he gets pulled under. Their last bastion of hope. Kaylee sees that he has mace, so she's like, use your mace. Pull out your mace and spray it. Which, for me, that's like, unlock your door while a killer's running at you at full speed. It's like, as many times I open this door, there's no way in hell I'm getting this door open in time to actually make it, to save my life. And I think the mace would be the same thing. I think the mace would probably be a little easier. But he doesn't get it. He dies. But instead of feeling bad at all, Kaylee just runs up and snatches the pepper spray. She's like, I saw it do something for a second, so I'm taking this shit. Kaylee has like been the one, her focus, she's like watching everything. And then Mitch decides he's going to be a hero and save the day. He's going to put on some flip-flops, wrap some towels around his feet, and he's going to make a run for that beach car. And they're throwing him, Chanda throws him up some towels from the car below. He catches the first one, and then the second one, he goes to catch it, and he's like, he has to reach a little bit, and he leans against the handrail. What is up with the bitch-ass handrails on that lifeguard station? Because the first time somebody leans on it and it's like it moves. And this time he's like, he has to reach a little bit more and he's like, oh! And he falls to his death. Mitch dies from a bunk handrail. Granted, he gingerly bumped it, but the sand is infested with this weird monster, maybe making the handrail not as solid as it normally would be, huh? Hey, Stan Lee, can I get a no prize? So Kaylee decides it's up to her, and she jumps down onto the car, and she bitch slaps Chanda.
Something, did you just get punched in your face?
Okay, it was more like a punch, but I'm on this bitch slapping kick lately. She's like, that's for sleeping with my man. And Chanda's just kind of like, you right? And they kind of bury the hatchet. And all she needed was some sense bitch slapped into her. They free Ronnie because her hand's trapped under the trunk. And then they got to play some hot lava monster to get over to Jonah on the picnic table to use the broken handrails. So the broken handrails end up making a nice little segue for that. Chanda makes it over. Kaylee makes it over. Ronnie almost makes it over, but doesn't quite. But doesn't feel the effects of the sand right away either. Until she does. And then there were there's 4, because old Gilbert's still out there. Except that Gilbert is bleeding. What kind of prank has a guy bleeding in his stomach because he's stuffed in a can that's too big? I mean, he's a big guy. Stuck. It's like... But eventually the sand like starts sensing his blood, and it's like little tiny tentacles are coming in. But the tentacles, they're not the baby tentacles we saw at the beginning of this film. They're bigger. They're full-blown tentacles that come out, and they come above, like, and he's like, oh no! And then they break the bottom out and they pull him under. There's enough blood. It's like they just need enough blood to sniff to make him worth it. To make it realize, like the predator seeing heat, they just needed enough to be like, wait a minute, we can eat this. And they suck him right through. Chanda takes Mitch's plan and literally runs with it, and she makes it to the car. And then the full-blown tentacles come out, and they shake the car. She falls, hits her head like on the windshield, and she's out. And then night falls. And it's like, what the fuck? You hit your head on a windshield? Did you go into a coma? Usually if you get knocked out, you're out for 6 minutes tops. Usually closer to 1 minute. You don't just it's not like those TV shows where you get knocked out and then you have an hour-long dream where all this shit happens. Then you wake up to hey, you know where you are? Oh, you're back. Cool. No, that's not real. She wakes up to Kaylee screaming her name. Shonda! Shonda! So she starts searching the car for resources. What can she use from the car? Because she can't drive it. Because they don't have the keys. Because I think old Jamie Kennedy took them with him. Or she finds an inflatable raft that she can make a bridge to the picnic table. And they can get, which, the way this is filmed, it's really hard to tell distance of okay, this is here. Because it's kind of like this, like your POV where you're looking straight at it. You're not getting a lot of above shots. So it's like, that might be 5 feet away, or it could be 25 feet away. I'm not sure. And it seems like that's done on purpose, where it's like, oh, the car's all the way over there. Like 1 minute the beach car looks like it's 20 feet away. Next minute it's like, no, actually this 6-foot raft, if we inflate it, it'll bridge the gap between. Like suddenly the car's not 20 feet away anymore. So they go, our remaining survivors, the love triangle, they go to the car. Only Shonda and Jonah make it in. Kaylee almost does, and now she's got to fight this fuller grown, because now it's even bigger, and it glows in the dark, and it's angry, which is weird, because it shouldn't be hungry. It's been eaten well. So she grabs a gas can, and it grabs it from her, and litters gas all over the place. So she grabs the other gas can, starts pouring it around the car, and then there's some matches that she stole earlier from the lifeguard station. She lights it, and somehow that works. That doesn't blow up the car that they're trapped in. Kills only the monster, seemingly, and everything's at peace. Then morning comes, and a guy knocks on the window. And they get up realizing that the monster's gone. Because the guy walked up. He's not wearing boots. He's wearing regular shoes. Or I don't know if he's wearing shoes or not. But he's like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, it's over. And they get out of the car and they walk off. And they're alive. They're fine. The monster's dead. And it's just Chanda and Kaylee. Apparently sleeping with Jonah is good luck. And I don't know if Jonah died or what, or if they set up a sequel, because the guy that saved him, they didn't look back at Jonah. They just walked away. Like, fuck you, Jonah. Like, they came to their senses. Like, you know what? I punched you in your face. I bitch slapped you. You slept with him and blah, blah. That doesn't make you a bitch. That makes that guy an asshole. Maybe they figured that out and they left him there because he's worthless. Because, man, your abs are toe up. I don't need you no more. But the guy that knocked on there and was like, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys should get out of there. He looks in there and he gets this look on his face like, huh? So I don't know what he saw. So they're setting up a sequel. This movie came out, 6 years ago? I've heard not a peep of a sequel. I don't know what happened in there. I'd be down with a sequel. As long as it was good. As long as it was gooder than this. It does have kind of the raft from Creepshow 2, it has that kind of vibe to it, except for instead of being on a raft in the middle of the water, they're on the beach in the middle of the sand. And the sand's the killer. It's exactly the same thing. The Badass Award goes to Kaylee for being the smart one from the get-go. She was figuring shit out, she didn't take any shit, and eventually rallied everyone together. What did we learn? Survival tales. Anytime you and your buddies find something that's big and slimy and looks like it's from another planet, Questioning that should probably become an immediate priority. Listen to the crazy kids that tell you not to go in the sand. Teach your kids some kind of rendition of Lava Monster, for fuck's sake. Alright, that wraps up this movie. Happy graduation. See you next time.